Infectious disease expert Dr. Zain Chagla joins us to discuss the latest updates on the pandemic and vaccinations. Good morning. Happy Friday. Thanks for joining us.
Happy Friday, Bob.
So I saw Canada received yet another shipment of AstraZeneca this week. Why?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest trial to date came out on Monday, and this is really what we were waiting for to say what was the appropriate strategy. In that trial, they showed people who got AstraZeneca and an mRNA vaccine had 9 times higher greater antibody levels than people that got 2 doses of AstraZeneca. And so it begs the question, right? Now we have good data suggesting that AstraZeneca and an mRNA vaccine probably makes the best immune response of all of our vaccine strategies. We know that the risk of clotting is reduced by getting mRNA on the second dose. We can't ignore what's happening globally where the Delta virus is surging in some of the poorest parts of the world. And so
Right.
there really isn't a reason to have AstraZeneca left in Canada, both from the standpoint of the best vaccine strategy for our citizens, but also for the global vaccine standpoint to get something to people who are struggling with COVID-19.
Yeah, and with the wealth of mRNA vaccines that we have, you actually brought up on Twitter, we had that big vaccination record at Scotiabank Center or Arena, and people are going, oh, that's amazing. But you pointed out that those vaccinations that day was more than the allotment for Namibia in Africa, which is starving for vaccines. COVAX is starving for vaccines.
And one of the problems with COVAX right now is there's been huge financial donations, which is great, but they don't have vaccines because the manufacturers are sending them to countries that have contracts. And so you can have all the money in the world, but nothing to distribute, unfortunately, which means, unfortunately, the COVID virus rages in places like Namibia, which is a 24 times higher death rate than Canada currently.
So we have a have-not situation with vaccines, and that seems incredibly short-sighted with the Delta variant taking off.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can be proud. We're going to be one of the nations that's probably going to be fully vaccinated probably towards the end of July. But it doesn't ignore the fact that we are now getting more vaccines than we need for our citizens. And, rather than creating a, shopping list of vaccines, we can stick with a single strategy, mRNA vaccines for everyone, which will not do anything in terms of our vaccine rollout, while still supporting the rest of the world. And the U.S. can do the same with giving up on the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, given that they have mRNA vaccines that are plentiful. And again, those could be diverted to the rest of the world to help with, solving some of the vaccine issues, even in the vulnerable and healthcare workers who still don't have a roadmap till a year from now to get a vaccine.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Delta variant, which is taking off in the hotspots around the world. And let's talk about Delta Plus. And when I first saw that, it was like, really?
I know. We're seeing variation in the virus. We have not done this type of genomic surveillance for a virus in history, right? So any new mutation, we're starting to add on. So this is Delta plus another mutation that has been noted in other variants. Again, more is not always better. And we always have to keep watching these things, not only for, how many mutations they have and the potential, but how well they spread. And more mutations sometimes lowers fitness. So it's one to watch. But if this doesn't really do much in the world, we know that, again, all those mutations probably took away from the fitness, which is a good sign that again, we only have Delta to deal with more than this Delta Plus variant.
Delta Light. Let's talk about, back to mixing and matching vaccines. We seem to have a messaging problem again because you've spoken about the efficacy of mixing and matching, and Quebec has come out and said if you've had Moderna for a first shot, you got to get Moderna for a second shot. Even the procurement minister has had a mixed dose.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just messaging. From what I can gather from Quebec, the issue was they want to keep Pfizer vaccine because there are 12 to 17-year-olds where there's only vaccine to give them, right? So they don't want Moderna vaccine candidates getting Pfizer when they need Pfizer vaccine.
So it's just a logistical thing.
It's a logistical thing, but they could say that flat out, right? Because it just says, okay, well, why can I get one combination and not the other? If they could say, listen, we just want to save supplies, that would have been a whole lot easier than the population even more.
Yeah. Well, I wish we had more time, but we'll end on a good note. As you said, Canada is leading the way, and we'll be in pretty good shape. Like right now. Well, you were saying by the end of
July.
July.
I think
Yeah.
we'll be the most vaccinated country on earth. Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic. Okay. Well, great to see you, and we'll see you again next week, Dr. Zain Chagla.